Before the rest of the Turin Giants crew joins the episode, I'd like to deliver a brief in memoriam. Today marks the 19th anniversary of the tragic death of two 17-year-old members of Juventus's youth program. As a former athlete, I cannot imagine the loss of a teammate. As a father, I can't think of anything more tragic than the loss of my child. And as a member of the Juventus family, I think it's mandatory that we always remember and honor everybody who came before us. To the friends and family across the globe of Ellie and Ricky, I just want you all to know that we will keep these two young athletes alive in our heart forever. Look, there's no way to successfully pivot from such a sobering reminder of how insignificant sport is in the grand scheme of life. But I'll do my best. We're all here, after all, to speak about yesterday's important victory over Bologna. And I think as the rest of the Turin Giants crew joins, we are ready to do just that. So let's get it started.
Conclusione rete, Andrea Pirlo, un gol pazzesco. Del Piero, Alex, la palla di Pogacar, Pogba, rete, un gol incredibile, Pogba fa esplodere lo Juventus Stadium.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 333 of the Turin Giants Podcast. My name is Zach, and I am joined by the main crew of Farhad, Kevin, and Frederic. Gentlemen, how are you doing this fine Monday?
Hey, we're talking Juve with our buds on a Monday afternoon. Life doesn't get better than that. What's up, everyone?
And a win.
It's evening for me.
What do you say, Frederic?
It's evening for me, though.
Yes.
Yes, it is. Hopefully it was a lovely Monday, and it is a lovely Monday evening for you. We are here, of course, to talk about yesterday's extremely important win in Bologna against a very good team. But because it is roughly 24 hours after the game is concluded, we're going to take a slightly more holistic view of not only that game, but also Spalletti's first 10 games in charge of Juventus, and finish up with a look ahead to the equally as important match this weekend against Roma. So before we jump into the actual episode portion of this content, as always, do some quick housekeeping. Y'all, if you don't follow us on Instagram at Turin Giants, we have a lot of really cool, fun content there. That's also a great way to get a hold of us if you have comments, suggestions, feedback, and the like. Additionally, thinking about YouTube, it is, we try our best, right, to be entertaining and informative, and all we ask in return is a like and subscribe. Those things for content creators, if you haven't heard it already, let me be the one to tell you, is extremely important. So we'd appreciate if you could do that for us. But I think that covers everything. Let's get into the Bologna game. And I'm going to start with you, Kevin, because I don't think it can be understated or overstated. I think it needs to be stated a lot how important that match was for Juventus, who came into that game 7th place of the table against a really good 5th place Bologna squad, right?
100%. I mean, myself and Frederic were sitting with Beppe a couple weeks ago, looking ahead to Napoli, Paphos, Bologna, and Roma. Obviously concerned about the Napoli and Roma matches, but equally concerned with so-called lesser opponents. And looking at the Paphos game, looking at the Bologna match, and saying Bologna is a lesser opponent, especially these last couple years, is probably disrespecting them to a degree, but they certainly don't have the credibility and the reputation and the history that Napoli and Roma do. That Paphos and Bologna could be the trap across those 4 matches, when oftentimes we've shown that we can rise to the occasion against tougher teams, but often struggle to do a job against the teams where we should win and where it should be very competitive. And thankfully, we took care of Paphos, although we all know how challenging and difficult that first half was. But the match against Bologna, we got it done. It wasn't always pretty. They had every opportunity to be leading and beating us. We had every opportunity to win by more than 1 goal, but we got it done. And picking up, I know we didn't pick up 3 points against Napoli, but picking up 3 points against Napoli just to drop 3 points against Bologna would have just been, it wouldn't have mattered. We were talking at that time is, would a win against Napoli mean that Juve's back in the title hunt? No, because there's so many other matches that followed that, and one game wasn't going to be enough for that to be a realistic conversation. And just because these other matches that follow, we haven't proven that we haven't been able to prove that we can always go out and beat the teams we're supposed to. And I think getting through this Roma match is going to be very important for us, because when you look at the schedule, and I'm sure we'll talk about this later, Zach, there's some very winnable games to start the year. And just doing a job in Bologna was important, and I'll leave it there.
Frederic, I'm gonna go to you, because you have repeatedly talked about how this team is mentally weak. This Bologna team is playing good football. They're ahead of us at the table, obviously, going into yesterday's game. There was a lot of pressure put on this. There's always a lot of pressure put on Juventus, but especially for this game, because it was the one, as Kevin said, that was maybe the one that was most beatable in the Napoli-Bologna-Roma spread. So do you think that the performance on the pitch was indicative of a team that's still flawed but has matured mentally somewhat?
I honestly feel that that's a bit too early to say. What I was looking forward to most was, after a positive or more positive second half against Paphos, where we also shifted a bit in formation. I was very curious to see if we could ride that wave for the next game. And I was very concerned about the way that we start our first halves. And I was a bit more optimistic yesterday when I saw that we took a slightly different approach, and in the end it paid off. It's still clear, I think, to everybody that we are not a title contender or a team that is there yet in terms of almost everything, every aspect of the game. But it was very, dare I say it, heartwarming for me to see that they took that second half of Paphos as something to build upon, started the game with another mentality, and throughout the game made more of a statement concerning their mentality, their eagerness and their willingness to fight back. And granted, technically, it wasn't all that good, and I'll get into that later on, because I have some issues with the way that people are approaching this game, especially the media. But it was very positive for me to see that they're building something, and that you could, in my opinion, feel the hand of Spalletti for maybe the first time after Paphos, and you can see what he's trying to do with what vision, and how he tries to instill also not just the vision and the formation, but that mentality. So I think, to summarize, we've won a battle, but we're far from winning the war still.
Farhad, going into that game, we played 3 horrible halves of football and 1 good one. Were you optimistic that we could get the job done in Bologna? No, okay.
No,
not at all.
Just tell you now. I mean, as a Juve fan, are you ever optimistic nowadays? Now, playing away would be tough, especially to this team. And I'm looking in the comments here. Luca is saying, nope, that's not him saying. Somebody said about how really beatable Bologna are, if any, like Frederic mentioned. We haven't won there since 2019. So yeah, going in that game, not really optimistic, but hopeful, and we can see that the team is starting to click a little bit, and I'll talk about it later. But the big picture, I don't know if you want me to say it about it right now, but in the big picture, huge win, huge W.
Well, I want to go back to Frederic because he kind of opened the door a little bit to how we played. So this game was a very open game for 90 minutes. So going back to something you said, Frederic, you said that the media was saying certain things and so forth. Why don't you expand on that within the context of how this game shook out?
Well, to me, it was very clear that we were still underperforming a bit in terms of what you can expect from a decent Juventus side. But I think we've all come to terms with the fact that this year, and especially the years that have passed, it's very difficult for us to make a statement in that respect and in that regard. But I thought that we played well, but we didn't make use of the space that lied in front of us. And that for me is a bit concerning because we aren't the most goal scoring team in Serie A or in Europe. And I feel that given the room that we had all game long, because a lot of people are focusing on the red card and spaces between the lines that fell after that red card. But I think throughout the whole game, we had some space to do a lot more damage, especially with the front line and the wingers that we have available. So to me, that was a bit concerning that we didn't do more than what we did. And, going through media, social media, newspapers, and whatever, I saw a lot of people praising this Juventus, and maybe rightfully so, but saying that Juve was very good, for me, is a bit of an overstatement with respect to our performance. Granted, we gave a good performance, but we just gave a better performance than what we're used to. And to me, that's not a synonym of being good. It's a synonym of being better. And we're on the way up. We did better. We grabbed the 3 points, and I'm happy. But to state that this Juve is once again Juve, like I read somewhere, for me, that's altering
Where
the
did
facts.
you read
And
that?
I think it was a passage in Tutto Sport that they claimed that Juve is on the rise, and this is the return of Juve, and Juve is forced to be reckoned with, and yada 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 yada
There's going to be a
yada.
lot more wins until we can claim that, I guess.
Yeah, and that's the issue that I now have, because we are very fragile, and we still have a long way to go. So let's take this win for what it is, build on that, and see what we can do with that. In the game that we face Roma against, because that's another 3 points, another important 3 points, again against a team that's in front of us in the table. So we have a chance to, set some of the errors that we made in the beginning of the season. We can set those right. And if we can do that, and we can do that with some continuity, then we can speak about a possible resurrection. But for now, it's way too early, in my opinion.
Kevin, Frederic said if if I were to create a tagline for a newspaper from what Frederic just said, and say not good but better, how would you sort of capture the performance from Juventus yesterday?
Progress. Just one word. Progress. I think Frederic is absolutely right to state that, or to challenge anybody saying Juve is back. We're far from being back for what we would consider to be acceptable for a club of our stature and what we want to see on the field. But you have to start somewhere with some progress. And I think when Spalletti joined, we saw the one game reaction, and then there were a couple matches where I think all of us, and the media included, were questioning whether we were seeing the appropriate reaction, whether we were seeing a change, whether we were seeing his imprint on this team. And I read something in Gazzetta earlier today, which did make it clear that we are starting to see a bit of Spalletti's imprint, and the article pointed out a couple of key things, which I thought it was a short article, but they verbalized it well. Spalletti's gained credibility within the locker room, and I think his seniority, his track record speaks for itself, but also how he's defending his players, how he's being direct and not mincing words either. After a match like Napoli, where he took accountability for the mistakes that he made, like that establishes credibility and a sense of authenticity with the squad. Another key thing is he's getting more out of the quote unquote senators within this club. And I know we would probably challenge how many senators we actually have with a strong core that we want to build around. But with the people that we have, look at McKennie, the longest serving player, I think, on this squad, other than Perrine, if I'm not mistaken. He's been performing quite well and is in a bit of form. Koop Miners, who we believe is supposed to be a part of our future growth as a club, has been reborn under him, albeit not in the right position, but he's getting his faith and mental strength back. We've seen, I'm not trying to start a debate here, but Locatelli's performances have been a bit better. You've seen David and Openda starting to get a bit of credibility. And you see like some happiness and some positive body language just on the touchline between them. You're seeing Cabal coming out saying just how strongly he feels and respects Spalletti. So I think we're starting to see Spalletti win the locker room a bit. And in a match against Bologna, in a must-win match off of the heels of a poor Napoli game, getting things back on track at the Champions League, Roma at the weekend, again against one of Spalletti's former sides, and a bit of a deep breath for Christmas before getting into the other matches. Progress. We are seeing progress.
Kevin mentioned some of the improving players under Spalletti, Farhad, but who do you think, if you had to name one player, who sits at the center of the progress that Juventus is making?
Where's my American anthem drop? Seeing McKennie get the respect finally, respect back is lovely. Kevin mentioned Locatelli. I don't see it, but I'll respect Kevin's opinion.
No, I asked you for one. So is your one player at the center of it McKennie?
Well, McKennie, but I don't know if he's improving. He's always been McKennie. He's always done what he's done, and it's lovely to see him, getting shouts from the fans and seeing him hustle out there it's nice to see.
One thing we haven't seen in a while was a set piece goal. Frederic, why don't you talk us through that little, very smart passage of play which yielded the only goal of the game?
It was, I hope, something that was trained upon. I think you could tell as well, because
it looked like it. Yeah.
The ball was passed down to Yildiz, whereas Yildiz often plays it back short either. Doesn't swing in the cross that many times if he's taking or if he's standing by the corner side flag. So I was a bit surprised, as were the Bologna defenders, because lo and behold, we had a very vivid Cabal in the center of it, heading it home, and it was as simple as that. And it just goes to show that at times it can be very simple to score. You don't need that striker who's netting 30 goals a game. You just need a clean pass with some vision, somebody running into space, making some room for the other person that comes in this case Cabal, and Cabal heads it home, and there's that. And I think, if I look back, because I look back at the goal several times today, I think this is something that we can exploit. I think we seldom use Yildiz as our assist man. We often think that he needs to get the ball, dribble, cut back, and shoot in the top corner, which he can also do. But I think a lot of his talent lies in the fact that he's very good with handing out assists, especially in set pieces. So I'm hoping to see this more, not just only with corner kicks, but only even with free kicks or whatever, because Yildiz is known to take a free kick directly as well, and I'm hoping he can improve on that, because if you look at the history of our set piece goals this season and the latter, it was kind of horrendous. So I'm hoping we can improve on that. And it was a good goal. The question that pops in my head, and that's the only question today, if I look back at those goals, is what if that goal didn't came to be? What was our plan of attack to break down the defense and use that space that we were getting? And this is a bit of my gripe, because we had a lot of space, and it's very ironic that we scored from an opportunity where the space was very limited, because you could see both teams in the penalty area, not a lot of space there. So it was kind of ironic to score at that point and in that situation. But I was very happy that we did, and I have to say it was a commendable assist by Yildiz, because that's not an easy. He makes it look easy, but it's not an easy cross to make.
Well, he did at least one thing better than Cambiaso, our free kick taker, the first 16 minutes. He beat the first man. So at least you start there. And
progress, like Kevin said.
And then good things happen. So, Kevin, Frederic kind of said, well, I don't know how we would have scored if we didn't score from there. It seems to me to be really obvious, because Cabal, one of our first subs, obviously that's the goal, but if he doesn't, our other first sub, Openda, was having an absolute field day with Bologna's high line. We oftentimes we give a lot of credit to coaches when they make a switch, and those switches, have an enormous impact. Was this the coming out party of Openda? And what credit do you give the players, Cabal and Openda, for the influence they had on this game versus, Spalletti in instituting those substitutions, which were clearly impactful?
I'm going to go back to the word I chose earlier and just repeat myself and just indicate this was good progress. I think celebrating coming out party for Openda is, look, he just needs a streak of games where he's putting in above average performances and he's getting shots on target, creating assists, scoring goals here and there, and just being a productive player on the field, instead of in many matches where he comes on too little, too late, looks lost, isn't in sync with some of the other players, mentally is trying to prove himself because he hasn't been getting these chances, and that pressure put on him either externally or just by himself, I think has had a negative impact. Cabal's also a player where I'm sure all four of us and every person on this chat in previous matches has also been very critical of some of his defensive play. Particularly, it was, if memory is serving me correctly, the Napoli match. He was chewed up by Neres on that side, right? And it's how quickly we can kind of forget that and say, wow, maybe Cabal's back or he's growing. I just think progress, right? And I think Spalletti sees something in Cabal, and I think having a fit, dependable person on the left side of the field who's not named Cambiaso serves us well, because everybody and their mother is complaining about Cambiaso's performances, understandably so. I know that wasn't the question, but when you look at Cabal and Openda, the more players within the squad, both in the starting 11 and on the fringe around that, who are having positive performances, getting a bit of confidence, is only a good thing as we enter the middle and the turning point of the season.
Might I add one thing? Because we're talking about players that are developing, that are getting better, that are performing the way we expect them to. And this is not something that happens overnight. And clearly here you can see the hand of Spalletti in the sense that he's a manager who's known to talk a lot to his players, directly and indirectly, but is also known as sort of a father figure. If you look at the youngsters that he's trained throughout the years, in every team that he's coached, there was always this one wild card that suddenly appeared and overperformed, or maybe just performed the way they should. And they all kind of thanked Spalletti for that. And I think this is something that we
Do you have any examples? I'm just curious.
oh, there are lots. I think Lobotka at Napoli at the time.
I'm not
Uh,
trying to put you on the spot, but
No, no, no,
I'm
no, no. I'm just
curious.
thinking about Lobotka at the time. There were two at Roma as well. I think Florenzi. No, not Florenzi.
Brozovic
Yeah,
at Roma.
Florenzi, Brozovic. I think also Spinazzola.
Hmm. Okay.
So, but and he's known for that. And I think this is something that we underestimated a bit because we were so into the formational side of things and where he was going to put which player and the history and the points that he obtained with other clubs, but we forgot the emotional effect that he can have on a team. And it was that psychological twist that a lot of players needed, I think. So
Yeah, the thing, I want to pump the brakes on Cabal. I'm definitely one of the individuals who's a little bit more conservative in his analysis of him, because on one hand he scores the goal with a header. When he was at Verona, he was, I think, third in Serie A in aerial duel win percentage. He's clearly a very skilled player in the air, and the little short pass caused a lot of a break, we'll say, in Bologna's defensive line that he was able to exploit. But then, what was it? Within 5 minutes, he heads a ball to keep it in, where only Bologna shirts around, instigating a very promising counterattack opportunity for our opponents. Is very much a raw player still there, and he has to grow. I think if what these gentlemen next to me are saying is true, and that Spalletti can get him to grow like he did with Coop and McKennie so far, who would have very stark changes under the new manager, that would serve us enormously, considering the black hole that we have currently on the left side of the pitch. I think we started already talking about individual players. So let's kind of get into, first and foremost, each of our players of the match. We'll kind of go around the horn on that. And then there's a few other folks I want to mention. Farhad, you go first. Who was your player of the match yesterday and why?
I am known for my unorthodox answers. He's not a player of, I mean, contribution wise, there was players like McKennie and Openda, like you guys mentioned, but someone I'd like to highlight is the return of Bremer. And I apologize for not going with a direct answer, and I'm just noticing I'm out of focus. But it was so nice to see Bremer. I just wanted to give him a couple of seconds here. Hopefully, he does feel good before the game against Roma, because God knows we need him. Who got the man of the match officially? Because in the replies here, in the comments in the chat, someone says Kelly was robbed. So Kelly was a standout, definitely. But who ended up getting the man of the match? You guys know?
I don't remember, honestly.
All right.
But yours is Bremer. We were going to absolutely talk about his return. Frederic, go next.
I thought De Gregorio was great also.
Farhad, you keep breaking the rules. I asked you for one name. You give me multiple names. Okay, so it's
sorry, Dad.
Yeah.
See what we have to work with here.
Jeez, I mean, come on, man. Okay, so we have one vote for Bremer. Obviously, really good to see him on the pitch, despite having relatively limited involvement towards the end of the game. Frederic, who was your player of the match?
Undoubtedly Kelly. Like I keep repeating myself, pod after pod, that he's improving and he's very good. But if you look at and you zoom in on how he played yesterday, he did what he usually does, but he upped it a notch. And I think that If you see where he's coming from, like every game objectively, you can see that there's a player here that progressed a lot in a very short amount of time. But what he did yesterday was something that I haven't seen a lot of defenders in Serie A do. He was carrying almost the whole back line on his back. Not only that, he was also running back and forth to midfield. At a certain point, I think he was outside of the penalty area of Bologna at the end of the first half as well. He put an amazing heart like he always does, but he kind of linked that up with a beautiful performance. Proactive defending, which I always love. I'm not a fan of Bonucci defending, turning your ass when somebody takes a shot. He's more of the proactive type, and he did that so well with a lot of confidence. And the thing I like most, and I'm going to repeat myself, I see him communicate a lot more. He really fills up those leadership boots naturally, tries to communicate even in Italian, which I find commendable for somebody from the UK who hasn't been here for not even a year. And somebody who steps up when need be, because we were talking about how important this game is, or the games that we had, and every game thus far he was there. He carried the back line, he did whatever he could. And yeah, granted, he makes a fault or two any given game, but yesterday for me he was flawless.
Kevin, who do you have?
Same questions coming my way.
Yeah.
So if I was before Frederic, I would have given that answer of Kelly. And just one more sentence on him before I give my answer. Tremendous respect for someone who received almost nothing but criticism when he joined. Not just from fans and the Juventus community, but from pundits, people in the media, just talking about just how far Juve's defense has fallen to pick some guy up who's barely getting time at Newcastle, how he's going to get compared to Dean Huijsen, just a player that never was for us in the first team. And he had some shaky performances for sure with all of that on top of him. But for everything we know to have been true over the summer, and how he stayed and how he trained and how he wanted to prove himself, and for what he's shown on the pitch today, he's one of these players who's giving his best. And I'm not trying to say that he's ever going to be able to get to Chiellini, Cannavaro, Barzaghi, but he is giving us his best, and we are seeing great performances from him. And for him to have the mental strength and fortitude to overcome that, keep his head down, and just put out these performances, it's commendable, and hats off to him.
Plus,
he has a very big testicles.
Yeah, and I love it.
Yeah,
and what
yeah.
Maz in the chat here on YouTube here from Mazmiv 3B. Sorry if I'm saying that incorrectly. Kelly is here to show everyone wrong, and I love that. I'm here for it too, and I love his story.
I want
to. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to add, Zach and I spoke about that during a summer episode of The Scoop, I think, when I reported that Kelly stayed in Turin. And ironically, we got a lot of backlash in the sense that people were saying, "Oh, what good is he? He could stay in Turin for 3 years, even more." And he's a shit defender and things like that. But Zach and I were very positive about that, and we still are, because you can see the results. But I think it's also a fact that he genuinely loves Juventus. And I know it's a bit of a stretch to say that because he's not been here for that long. And I know that, love for a certain team in this period of time within the sport of football is very hard to come by. But I honestly think that if you're an individual who basically lands in a new country, new culture, new language, you could see that you're struggling, and then take time to invest your own free time into not only training, but getting to know the culture better, the city better, the language better. And you see that pay off. Like, that is so rewarding, not just for him as a player, but I think for the whole team. I think Cl- Kelly sends a clear message saying to the team, okay, I'm somebody who maybe doesn't have what it takes to be that next Chiellini, to be that next Bonucci, but maybe I don't want to. Maybe I just want to reach my 100% of what I can do with what I can do, and therefore contribute to the greater good, which is Juventus. And not only is that very humbling, but it's such a nice revenge arc for him personally that you cannot help but love the guy for that. And I'm sorry that I took your words and then took you guys hostage, but I just wanted to get that off my chest because this
I
is
mean, it's how my season started, right? I was fortunate enough to be at some of the matches early in the season, including the crazy 4-3 win against Inter. Me and my buddy who were going to the game, we got interviewed by Tuttosport and like, who's going to score? And everyone's like, Kelly, just kind of joking that he's still kind of this just like fraud within the team. And who scores first? Kelly in that match. And then from there, I just think that was a weight off of his shoulders. And from that match onwards, I think really started to stand out with the fans.
You guys have better memory than I do. Did he have really bad performances ever? What was his worst? Where we were like, what have we done?
Last season,
the whole season.
Yeah. I mean, and he was just set up in a lot of ways to fail for the fan base, right? The whole Dean Huijsen comparison, and I don't need to rehash what these gentlemen have said, but the mental fortitude that Kevin indicated to turn around and be as good as he is, I stick by what I've been saying since I think Game 3, that he is the comeback player of the year for me, and he has consistently proven that he deserves that. Taking a more expansive look at our defense, obviously we saw Bremer back playing very conservatively for a shorter period of time in the game. But, if we take him out, because it's going to be sort of a long road for him, I feel I'm strangely comfortable with our back line of Kalulu, Kelly, and Coop Miners. Like, they give me, I don't worry about them very much. I think they're very steady. 3 of the last 4 games we've played were clean sheets, which we just never had up till that point. Are you guys as strangely confident and comfortable with our defense right now? An area of the pitch where under Tudor we were freaking out.
I'm going to step in because I'm also going to give my answer to the previous question that I never gave because this builds upon it. My MVP for the match, who's not Bremer or Kelly from Farhad and Frederic respectively, is Di Gregorio, and I'm just going to give you 3 reasons for it. 1, clean sheet. 2, 4 saves, some of them trickier than others. 3, had the kind of air quotes assist on the red card for looking upfield with the deep ball, and contributes towards that. So he'll be my MVP there.
I guess Kevin doesn't get yelled at for changing his answer, but whatever.
He hasn't given an answer yet. So
I was just reinforcing Kelly previously, but on that though, I do feel more comfortable. The defense seems it is no longer. I don't know if it ever was the worst part of our game, but it's not the area of the pitch that I'm most concerned about right now. We still don't have our midfield figured out, but I think the thing that we were worried about earlier, Frederic was indicating, if that free kick goal never came, where was the goal coming from? Because that's my concern. I don't know where goals are coming from sometimes. And if we're not going to get a moment of magic from Yildiz, I have concern where the goals are coming from. We are not a prolific side. I mean, for sitting, how's Roma doing right now? They are
Roma is going to win that game.
They are. For sitting 5th in the table with a goal differential of 5. We're not very prolific. I mean, this is a very incomplete side, and we don't have depth in defense right now, but it's not the part of our game that I'm most concerned about.
I have to say, I think, Frederic, that Di Gregorio looked a lot more certain in aerial situations in that game as well, wouldn't you say?
He gave the performance that you'd expect him to give every game. And maybe that's the issue because I can, I mean, hats off to him for yesterday. It was a decent performance.
Ooh, we got a hats off.
It wasn't a world shocking performance, but he was solid. He stood his ground. He intervened when he needed to. But and that's for me the kicker of the whole thing. You'd expect him to do so almost every game, whereas now it feels like an exception to the rule where the table should have been turned. Like he should have had a bad game, and that should have been the end of it. So I'm not gonna go back to my tracks and say, oh no, he's a good. I still think he's a mediocre good goalkeeper. All things considered, but yesterday he did well, and I'm hoping that he can show that at least another 10 games this season, because that's basically the job of a goalie. You need to get points in for your team and prevent other people to score.
Frederic,
That's what he did yesterday, and I'm happy. I hope he can repeat himself numerous
Frederic,
times.
I know you're the Di Gregorio gauge here on the podcast. Do you think the entire team, except a couple of people who are lagging, entire team is improving, as we mentioned? You think Di Gregorio is just one of those players who just, feels like a little more responsibility under Spalletti, and that's him improving a little bit?
I think that if you're part of a team and you come to terms with the fact that you are a team and that you share an equal goal which you want to reach, and the noses are all in the same way, and you accept the fact that you'll have to fight hard to reach those goals, but you have to do that together, and you have one leader who drills that into you every day, then it boosts confidence, boosts self-awareness, and boosts the whole us against the world feeling. And this is the kind of feeling that we were missing for a long time. And it's starting to slowly ooze back in to the squad. And I think being mediocre, technically, in my opinion, I think this is the boost that we need, and that will make us better by 20-25%, in my opinion. So yes, I think he's more confident, as is the whole team, or at least 80% of the players that we saw. We have a long way to go still, but this is something that can be of crucial value throughout a whole season, because something has changed. Now, if we can keep it up, that's another discussion. But you could see that there are numerous aspects of the game and of the squad that have been altered in some way, shape, or form, which can have a very positive effect on the whole team.
Good. Thank you.
I'll kind of close this topic by giving mine. I think Yildiz also was a man of the match, got the assist, and despite not having a great passing performance, at least to his lofty standards, or maybe the standards that we hold him to, he was extremely influential, in more central positions. In fact, if you could, depending on the broadcast, you might have caught it Spalletti yelling at Yildiz in order to take more central positions, to find pockets of space in more dangerous places on the pitch in order to help facilitate more positive attacking intent. And I think he did that really well. I do think ultimately, though, I share a lot of people's apprehension on where will the goals come from. But I think many of us will agree that when we do score, it almost always goes through him, like it did yesterday. So I think that rounds out our men of the match. We also talked about Openda, Bremer, and other folks. Just real briefly, Farhad, we've been talking a lot about Cambiaso, and he came up a lot in chat, right? In fact, spoilers / plug, I guess, more of a plug, is Frederic and I will be doing another episode of our new series called It's Black and White, where we will debate whether Cambiaso has a place in this club moving forward. Anybody who knows Frederic knows exactly what side he's going to take.
Love the new show, boys. Let's plug it. It's great numbers. The response is awesome. You guys have a new show. Congrats.
Well, thanks. Yeah, a lot of really cool, a lot of eyeballs, a lot of comments. We really appreciate it. Frederic and I read all that stuff. We always look to improve. So stay tuned for those episodes and continue to give us the comments and the feedback. We read it and it helps us do a better job for y'all. But Farhad, just speak about Cambiaso yesterday because he seemed to also struggle to have an influence. Are we just stuck having to play him because the alternatives are a Cabal who is still getting up to speed and Kostic, who I don't know how much legs are left?
I mean, he's certainly not to be benched, sadly. Like you said, we're kind of stuck with him, but something needs to happen. We went from a player who was wanted by Manchester City at one point to whatever's happening now. Every time I see it, I just expect a back pass. And it's like if the coach would tell him, hey, you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to pass the ball back. But obviously I'm not there to suggest that to Spalletti. No, it's as you can see from the comments, people just don't know what's going on. He went from a great prospect and this kid and then I remember injury happened and it's clearly something mental. The questions. Look at the questions. I guess we're gonna have a little segment dedicated to Cambiaso because we don't know what's going on. Cambiaso can play as a left wing and move Yildiz to number 10 position. That's
well, I mean, we don't need to get into. I'm not getting into all of that. It's just if you were the coach, Farhad, and you had a choice, you're gonna play. And we're gonna assume McKennie's on the right. Okay, poor João Mario, no justice for him. McKennie's on the right. And your choice is Cambiaso, your choice is Cabal, and your choice is Kostic.
Well,
who are you starting? Who are you starting?
Sadly, Cambiaso. it's a shit show, and we're here for it. But he has it in him. I just don't know what's going on. Honestly, it's you play the kid. Maybe a moment of magic will happen, and because we see a lot of stupidity, a lot of yellow cards and weird decisions, and
his free kicks and corner kicks,
free kicks, and I mean corner kicks. He needs to stop. But curious, a short corner kick yesterday worked, but that was a pass from Yildiz.
It wasn't him.
Yeah,
no, that was Chico. That was Chico.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah,
Cambiaso
was already
he wasn't even involved
at that point, I believe, because Cabal was the one who scored, who came in. Frederic,
you have to keep playing him. Yeah, like you said, Kostic. If Kostic is the alternative, then we're screwed.
Frederic, I'm going to maybe take a shot in the dark here. If the whole point of Cambiaso is to drift into the midfield and create forward-moving progression, probably more centrally than your normal wing back. Would it be crazy talk to just play João Mario over there? He's very good going forward. He is equally poor in defense. He can cross. He can dribble. He's fast. Would giving him a shot in that position over Cabal, who's still getting back up to speed, and Kostic, who I'm not sure has it anymore, worth it? Or is that crazy talk?
No, not at all. I wholeheartedly agree with you there because I feel that even if and we're just going to go by statistics or the feeling that you get with a certain player, I think at this point it's very clear to see that Cambiaso's story at Juve has come to an end. I'm not saying that he'll get a transfer. I'm not saying that he'll do whatever, but I think it's very clear to see that you just can't rely on him anymore. And you could rely on him even without the fancy things that he did and the assist or the occasional goal. So that was always a bonus. But if you see the way he puts in performances now, I wouldn't hesitate to bring João Mario on. Now, and this is maybe the issue by itself. Spalletti's not a fan of Cambiaso either, but he sees these guys train every day. And I think he just picks the ones that train the best. And I've been told that Cambiaso on the training pitch is a whole different Cambiaso than the one that we see come game night. To get deeper into the Cambiaso issue, we'll share that on our episode of It's Black and White. But it's a mental issue, and it hasn't anything to do with Juventus, the coach, the formation, whatever. I think he was so disillusioned by the miss of that transfer to City and maybe the lack of interest from other teams that he sees this as a ceiling, and he's just not content with the ceiling that he's reached. And, you know, for me personally, I'd give John Mario the chance. And I don't think it'll be long if John Mario doesn't leave in January, which I strongly doubt. Should that not be the case, I think we'll see John Mario receive a lot more minutes, either on the other side, and then Spalletti's known to switch things up. But you're gonna have to play him because the Cambiaso performances we're getting now are unacceptable and inexcusable. And I even heard word of a slight altercation between him and Spalletti after the game because he, as I reported, he just broke the corner flag or threw the corner flag away or something when he was subbed, and he put it
Damn.
back immediately. But yeah, it was off camera because they didn't want to show it, but he was pissed. And word around the street is that he came back to the bench and Spalletti asked him why he was acting like a child, and he said, "You are lucky with the minutes I gave you this game."
All right,
And
buddy.
then it went back and forth. So I'm not sure what's going to happen there, but I think it's clear for everybody to see that it's not somebody you can rely on at this point, and he's our weak link.
Yeah, no, I mean the two players, and not to get into, we're going to kind of close this book on the Bologna game and move more towards reflecting on Spalletti's first 10 games in charge. But I think I don't think y'all will disagree that the two players who have yet to exhibit a notable bump since Spalletti joined is Cambiaso and Thuram, who saw some meaningful minutes for the first time in a while. So I think Thuram's look more promising, but those two are the ones I'm waiting on to take that next step. And we will certainly see moving forward. Let's pivot. Okay, we have finished. The Bologna game was the completion of the first 10 games under Spalletti that Juventus have had. They, in that time, have 6 wins, 3 draws, and 1 defeat. Yesterday's win being maybe our most notable, as well as a few in the Champions League. Our draws were against Torino and Fiorentina, both of whom were very vulnerable. And our defeat was obviously his return to Napoli and the Diego Maradona. I'm going to go to you first, Kevin. What letter grade, if this was school, what letter grade would you give Spalletti and why?
That's not how I was expecting the question to be phrased. But let's play this game. I'm gonna go with a B. I think the questionable decisions against Napoli, if that game had played out better, I probably would have given him an A, because of what he's working with. And we all know, and it has been debated and discussed ad nauseum, and we know the coaching carousel that we're on, and just bringing in another coach isn't the answer to bring Juve back to where we want this team to be until other issues with the club are assessed, which I know we're not talking about now. We're talking about Spalletti. So you look at the beginning of his the start of his tenure here, which I hope continues for a very long time, because that means he's doing well, and I want our club to do well. You have the win against Cremonese and then the 3 straight draws. I think that's him figuring out what he's working with, understanding these players, understanding how he can potentially put his imprint on it without drastically changing things within a squad that has proven to be mentally weak and not that resilient. And then since then, that means we've had 5 wins and 1 loss, right? If I'm doing my math right, after that stint of him kind of figuring things out.
Yep.
And so again, progress. right? Figured things out, moving forward, beating teams we're supposed to beat. And just to go down a little bit of a history lesson here for the listeners, right? So after the 3 straight draws, wins against Bodo Glimt, Cagliari, Udinese, Paphos, Bologna. Games on paper we should win, went out, did a job, with the one trip up against Napoli, which again, not that the team did not play well, but he also made choices for that match, which we've all criticized, which we don't need to rehash, but he took accountability for it and has 2 wins on the trot now in a very important game, which we know just against Bologna, and we'll see how this continues against Roma. So I'm giving him a B because I think he's learning, I think he's adapting, and I think he's getting the respect in the locker room.
Farhad, 4 out of 5 wins, 4 out of the 5 games wins. What, 3 out of the last 4 clean sheets? Are you convinced by Kevin's progress? What letter grade do you give Luciano Spalletti?
I'm giving my guy an A. Come on. Took over the team without being here in the summertime. Got us 95% of the important. All right, you guys take over. My garage is open. Next, please.
Frederic. Okay, we got a B. We've got an A. Frederic.
We don't do grades in Europe that way, but I'm just gonna go with the American equivalent. I'm a steady B plus because I agree with Kevin. I think he's still learning, and I think that come February we'll get to discover the real Spalletti because Daniel knows what he can work with. Because I honestly feel, and I saw a lot of people after that 3 straight draws bashing him already, but you can't judge a player by just training sessions. You just can't. You have to look at him in a real life performance endowed situation where you can see how they handle certain things, what choices do they make, how they handle pressure, how they communicate with other teammates, what solutions do they pick or not pick. Those are the moments that you need to take, and those are the moments that you as a coach can see what your squad individually is capable of. So he needed those moments in order to get a good imprint of what the material was, what he had to work with. And it wasn't soon after that, those 3 draws, that it became apparent that he's not happy with the squad, the depth of the squad, or the quality within the squad, which is a good thing because it took him not long to notice that. And then step by step, he gradually started to improve those little facets of the squad that, in my opinion, were missing. And he started from an individual standpoint and started to improve or try to improve players so that they could have a huger impact on the team as a whole. So I think this is a gradual process. I hope that now he has bought himself a bit of time and doesn't get succumbed to a lot of the pressure or the criticism that was harshly bestowed on him. And I think come February we'll see a coach who's come to terms with the material that he has and how he wants to utilize it. You know, if you link that up with our coming winter transfer market, where we could maybe poach a player or 2, which could be vital to Spalletti's way of playing and the things that he wants to bring to this team, then I'd say we could move on to an A.
Can I add something
very quickly? Yes.
I remember back in the day when Allegri was still our coach, Kevin mentioned that. I think you even texted us to make sure to mention on the podcast. I think you were in Italy. You said that Allegri is not a good player manager. He's a great, tactician and all that. What do you think? Well, the differences between Spalletti right now, kind of managing the young players, because there's no one under 30 on the squad. What do you see the difference between Allegri's way of managing?
Allegri wasn't a coach. He was just a manager. Like he's especially given everything that was happening at the club with the Plus Valenza stuff and all of the like doing so well at shielding the team and managing the situation. But players were not improving with him. Coaching and improving the players and the quality of the team. I think that was the comment back then, that he wasn't coaching, he was managing a situation.
But I do love what Spalletti's doing with the younger players, and sometimes he throws out in an interview something nice about a player. I imagine as a young man, it's nice to hear. So I don't know. A to me. Sorry, I was interrupted, but so far we're seeing a little stability on the bench, which I love.
All right, so we're going to just do some quick hits right here. Kevin, I'm going to start with you. And this might not be quick. I realize the question I'm about to ask you is not one that maybe is going to be quick. But Thiago Motta, first 10 games, 6 wins, 4 draws, 0 losses. Tudor, first 10 games, 6 wins, 3 draws, 1 loss. Spalletti, first 10 games, 6 wins, 3 draws, 1 loss. What is different about Spalletti that we should expect to go in a more positive direction than the aforementioned, who have extremely similar starts to their time?
Really, really good question. I think there's 2 things I would lean on. The first is just sheer experience, right? You look at, let's start with Motta. Did brilliantly at Bologna, overperformed, but without the pressure of what it means to coach at a side like Juve. He came in with a lot of excitement, the new squad, Giuntoli giving him so many gifts that he wanted. Ultimately was unable to rise to the expectations that maybe were too far out of reach for him to be successful anyway, but showed a level of stubbornness and showed a level of, I'm going to play my system, and by golly, we're going to play my system, and an inability to get more out of the players, an inability to adapt and adjust, and wasn't learning and wasn't taking accountability. We criticized his pressers, which I know sometimes it's like how much you actually want to take out of it, but there were themes of him never taking accountability, right? Never learned from it. So there's an experience factor where Spalletti has been there and done that at multiple levels with different teams. Just the sheer nature of his age, right? Just coming in, he's seen, he's learned, and he's gotten where he is. Motta did not, and Tudor had never coached more than 50 games at a team, right? And had never survived a whole single season. So that onto itself is one thing that gives me hope for Spalletti. The second is what I just alluded to before around accountability and learning and adjusting. And we didn't see much accountability from Tudor or Motta in taking ownership of mistakes and trying to adjust and tinker when needed, not out of just tinkering for the sake of tinkering, which we know some managers do, but because things aren't working and you've seen enough body of evidence in training, in matches, in results that commands an adjustment. And we saw that with both Motta and Tudor without any reaction and just like, we're going to keep doing this and I'm going to hold to it. There's a difference in trying to establish continuity versus just being incredibly stubborn and not actually adapting to a situation and trying to get the best out of your team. And Spalletti has, I think, has shown that he's got other tricks up his sleeves and he will learn and adapt to what he's been given. I hope.
With that in mind, Farhad, your sort of quote unquote quick hit. I realize that was not a very easy answer, but do you think Spalletti is the guy that will get us top 4?
I think so. I mean, this was I didn't really hit the fact that this was such an important win, and important not only in terms of jumping a spot in Serie A standings, but also a moral win for the coach, for the team. It's an away game. It's a It was a clean sheet. I can see that, absolutely, and I really hope so, because I really do like Spalletti. Ever since his first first press conference, I've been a fan. I really hope he succeeds. First 10 games is such a weird metric, and like you said, I feel like if it were to go downhill from now, it will, because Zach, you presented the first 10 matches, the stats with Motta and Tudor. I'm really looking forward to the next 10, and I really hope he does get that number 4 spot. And like Kevin said, he's done it. He's actually lifted a trophy above his head, and I really hope we weather the storm of this season and pick up a couple of people in January. And I'm personally wishing him success with Juve, even with that tattoo on his arm. Answer is yes. I think top 4 finish is very possible with him.
Last question on Spalletti for Frederic, and I hope Ozymandias is still with us, because he asked this at the beginning of the episode, but we were dealing with other topics. So I hope he's still with us. Please put a message in chat if you are. But his question was, if Spalletti doesn't reach top 4, based solely on the evidence we've seen in these 10 games, Frederic, do you keep him? You're muted, buddy.
Thank you. That's not a black or white question. That's a great question, because it all depends on what are the standards that we set for the season after that. Which players do we have? And maybe the most important thing to take into consideration, why did we not achieve that 4th spot or didn't achieve Champions League football? Because there are a lot of variables in that equation that we can not comprehend until the season's over. And the fact is that we don't know who can be the alternatives to Spalletti. So there are so many question marks.
No, I'm not accepting that. You give it black and white, Frederic. We finished 5th.
I would.
You keep him?
I keep
based
him.
on the 10 games we've seen.
I'd keep him.
And why?
I'd keep him because I think that given a proper amount of time, a proper amount of, let's say, ownership within transfer management, and the fact that his presence as a whole and his experience might be a determining factor in continuity, because we seem to start afresh every season. It's year 0 every season. For some reason, we start afresh. We throw millions out the window and hope for the best to happen, but that doesn't happen, like we highlighted many times, without a clear vision. It's clear that we chose the path for Spalletti, but it's also clear that he chose us, because why on earth would somebody accept this joke of a contract, which it basically is? Nobody in their right mind would accept this unless you were sure as a coach that you can make an impact and you could achieve something within this club. And I honestly feel that he can. I don't know if the timing's right or if he has enough time till the end of the season. And I honestly don't know if the players that we have right now are good enough to get in that rat race and confirm 4th place. But I do feel that he's on every aspect that we judge a trainer on. I think he's the one that links up with the Juventus DNA, or what we stand for, the best out of a possible list of coaches that we might have. And granted, there will be coaches that could make an impact. But to come back to your first question, the difference between the two previous ones is that we see progress. We see progress every game and every training, even in the way that we handle media, the way that we feel as a squad, the way that we conduct ourselves as a team. And for me, that is something, I think I was saying this a couple of episodes prior, when we hit those draws, I didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm seeing it now, and I'm hoping for that light to shine brighter and become bigger. But it's only possible if we give the guy the support he needs and the time that he needs. So I'm sticking with Spalletti on this one. Yes.
Well, Mitchell,
Zach, can I say one quick thing on this?
Yeah.
Yeah. It just, I think I'm not My assessment on Spalletti will not be of a B plus. I like how Frederic put that. Will not change materially based on how things go against Roma. In these head-to-head matches against title contenders, anything can happen. How I want to continue to assess him is what happens in those 5 games afterwards against Pisa, Lecce, Sassuolo, Cremonese, and Cagliari before Champions League returns against Benfica and that big match on the calendar at the end of January against Napoli. Right? If you beat Roma and then go out and tie a couple games or lose one of those against the Provinciale sides, then it doesn't matter, right? Like, let's do the best we can against Roma, but you have to go out and beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And I want you to ask this question again when we get to the end of January, before Benfica, before Napoli, to ask for a reassessment again after these next 6 games and see if that progress that we're talking about here actually materializes.
And the transfer market, let's not forget, because we tend to say, I read it in the media too, it's the January transfer market, it's always difficult, but you don't need to attract 10 players. And for Spalletti, it's clear he needs that Lobotka figure in his team, which is very vital to him. If we can get that in, if we can get somebody on the left wing as a center back or a left wing back or whatever you want to call it, and you can up the quality within the squad, and you have those players that can do what Spalletti demands of them, it's a whole different view. I mean, we could easily, I'm not saying we're going to, but numerically, we could still become league winners. And this is not something that's realistic at this point, but if you just look at how close we are and the difference in quality between those teams, I only see Inter as the one that sadly, qualitatively, is a bit over the levels of the other ones. So in that respect, anything goes and anything's possible. But then again, we still need to give them a bit of time. And Roma is going to be one indicator of a lot of indicators that will come our way in the coming month, I think.
Well, you've mentioned it. Kevin's mentioned it. Several folks in chat, most recently, Mitchell Alliance, and a few others. Let's finish up today's episode by talking about Roma. Roma, who defeated Como 1-0 today. They are currently 4th in the table, 4 points clear of us. So even if we win this weekend at home, we will still be behind them. They are 10th in their Europa League table, only 1 point back from the auto qualification top 8. And they by far have the best defense in Serie A, only conceding 8 goals in the entire season, which is crazy. I think one thing to keep in mind, what we in the Di Gregorio debate is granted, XG and XGA are not my favorite stats at all, but their expected goals against are 16, double the amount they've conceded. And so I think the Svilar effect is something that they've been riding in a lot of close games. He's proven to be a top quality goalkeeper. Another thing that's notable about their team from my perspective is that they don't score a lot either. They average 1 goal a game. And they have no draws. So for them, it's in a lot of ways more of that Allegri style, despite Gasperini being their coach, winning by a nose. With all of that in mind, and the fact that Coop Miners is suspended, Farhad, is this a must-win game for you?
It's a good question. Are we talking mathematically or?
No, I'm talking about your opinion.
Mentally. Oh, I'm way out of focus. I apologize, people. It's definitely a must-win. We're playing at home. God knows on the return what the situation will be. Beating them at home would be away will be super difficult. So we must grab those 3 points while we can. Kind of riding high, and plus it's at home, so it's definitely 3 points.
Kevin, we won 4 out of 5. We've got 3 clean sheets in the last 4. We've seen some improvement from players. Farhad says it's a must-win game. Are you confident that we will win this game? And if so, or if not, why?
No, I'm not, because we don't know what Juve we're going to see week in and week out. We had a couple nice wins, and then we lay an egg against Napoli, have a terrible first half against Paphos, and then we still pulled out that win and have a nice professional win against Bologna. I'd like to see the progression continue, and if it does, I won't be surprised, because it shows an imprint and it shows things are changing. But it also wouldn't surprise me if we go out there and forget how to play football and don't have a shot on target until the 70th minute of the game.
Don't get too
We're
happy.
just an inconsistent squad. This is who we are. What's the thing, Frederic, that he said? Questo siamo.
Questo siamo.
Yeah, this is who we are. And until this is not who we are, I'm not going to have confidence from one game to the next.
Frederic, with the suspension to Coop Miners for accumulation, what does our defense look like?
I think we'll start with Cabal.
Cabal is left center back?
Yeah. I honestly feel that he's going to try and do that. Or maybe even, worse or more dramatically, he's going to start with a back four.
Which would look like?
I think he'll have to throw in Bremer. So Bremer, Cabal, Kelly, Kalulu.
Would you, Kevin? Would you start Bremer so soon? Even if he's like the only defender you got, do you start him because you have to, or do you find a way to bring him along slowly?
I would not start him. Simple as that. I don't.
Neither would I. Neither would I.
The how many, looking, I don't even know how it's possible to have that many games in the month of January. We have 8 games in January, and the Champions League doesn't even pick up until the end of the month. There's such a string of games coming. There's not truly a holiday or winter break here.
But can Bremer take a break after Roma?
Oh, a week. There's a week in between Roma, and I believe the next game is Pisa. That starts that run of games that Kevin was talking about.
Yeah.
But I mean, wasn't the whole problem with Bremer that we started the season, he played every single minute of every single game, and then he busted his leg again, right? I mean,
he is match fit, but you could tell from the minutes that he was playing against Bologna that he doesn't have any match rhythm. And that's the issue. I don't think the fitness is the issue, but the match rhythm is the issue. Meaning, we could even switch back to McKennie, but, to get back to the question at hand, I think this game is going to be a game that's going to be won over mentality and not technical ability. Because I see a lot of people praising Roma, rightfully so, because their defense is the best defense. But this is also typical Gasperini. He did the same at Atalanta, where he solidified the defense before going into attacking motion and setting that straight. And this is just the way that he works. In order for us to win that game, we'll have to win it by mentality, make use of the open space that we're gonna get. And if we should win, I hope we do. If we should win, then that marks for me the biggest win of the season, because you go in that short winter break, you go into the holiday period with a very positive outlook towards the rest of the season, with games that are arguably within reach to get a certain amount of points, and you could cement yourself in that top 5. And I think for the confidence, for also the players having something to look forward to, having that unspoken motivation of trying to do better, trying to reach that 4th, maybe 3rd spot, is something of unlimited value. So I think for me, and I've always said this is the turning point. This is maybe the most important game. Apart from the Champions League ones, I think this is the most important.
The mental. You can't overlook emotionally and mentally what it will mean for the players to be having Christmas dinner with their families riding a win. That loss and that sour taste in their mouth hanging over until the game that when is the Pisa
I think
match?
it's 27th or 28th, so a few days after.
So right after that, like mathematically, I don't think this is a must win. You lose this game and win the next 5 and do like a clean sweep on those smaller sides, and you get 15 out of 18 points over those 6 games. I would take that. But ending the year, well, not finishing that 3-game slog against Napoli, Bologna, Roma, against all top 5, top 6 teams with 2 wins out of 3, you have that win going into the holiday season mentally and emotionally for this team that we've agreed is mentally weak, and Frederic coming with like real insight that validates this. It's huge. So from that perspective, I say it has to be a must win. Mathematically, no, but in the reality of that we have a team of human beings that maybe aren't as mentally strong as we would like them to be. We have to win this game.
Also, let's not forget, I think 4th place, whereas other seasons we were talking about, 4th place is the bare minimum. We are Juventus. I think 4th place this season is the ceiling. I think we need to be very realistic with that. You have arguably 2 teams that are way better than us, that are, top of the table as well in terms of quality and quantity. And then you have the fact that we have a lot of people that are, like Kevin pointed out, not so stable on the mental part. So I think this is a season we need to blow through. We need to survive, get what we can. And if we are smart enough to reconfirm Spalletti for next season, and if we're smart enough to listen to him in terms of transfer management, and if we then are smart enough to make subtle tweaks to management, then we can talk about, setting something next season. But this season, because, I read it everywhere, we could be title contenders if we play like we play, yada yada yada. No, keep that 4th place in mind. Let's try to get that, and let's try to see if we can lay the foundation where we can build upon next season and not start afresh with that year 0 bullshit once again. I think this is the biggest goal we have to achieve this season, in my opinion.
Preach.
What was? Can I ask one question that I know Zach hates it, but give me one answer. What was the cutaway to Chiellini? What phase did he make? Because I keep seeing it. Even Frederic mentioned that I must have missed that part of the game. He's like, Chiellini's all of us right now.
He was doing this.
He was praying hands.
Yeah.
It was, well, look, I didn't get to it. This episode is we're approaching an hour and a half, which is long for us. We didn't get to talk officiating, but the Chiellini reaction was due to one of the, we'll just say, potentially controversial decisions by the officials in the game. We're not going to talk about it today, though. It was on the outline to maybe address if we had time, due to some of the calls or non-calls, shall we say, that were noted by the Juventus fan base. Certainly, we've had a fair number of oopsies that the league has come out afterwards to say, like, yeah, sorry, we got that one wrong, but
you're Juve, you'll be fine.
There's no recourse, but sorry. Yeah, we're not going to get into that now, but it was one of those, Farhad. I think it's our time to do predictions, and we'll end here, gents. Farhad, Juve Roma this weekend. Who wins and what's the score? And I'm going to write these down. Okay, I'm going to do my best Pepe impression from Thursdays. I'm going to write these down. All right, Farhad.
Can I be last? Let me think about it, because
I went to you first.
1-1 draw. It's a must win, like I said, but it ain't always like it's drawn up.
You don't always get what you want, right?
Yeah, I mean, home advantage is huge. Absolutely. I feel like is Curva on strike this time around? What are they feeling?
Who knows?
Like
Not even they know.
Ask them. They're behind you. Ask
They'll
them.
figure it out right before the match starts.
So it depends on the atmosphere at the stadium, and plus, if David is, if Openda is feeling it, hopefully he'll finally give us a great performance after Roma. Against Bologna, he was decent. Hopefully he keeps going with that. Hopefully the defense holds them, and we're able to sneak one through their amazing defense. So maybe 1-1.
Frederic.
2-1 Juve.
Kevin.
My brain says 0-0. My heart says 1-0. So we'll go with 1-0.
Juve.
Yes.
0-0 is such a pragmatic prediction. I love it.
And I'm going the 0-0. Boring, scrappy, annoying game where afterwards we hop onto a live and we grump for 60 to 90 minutes.
This is gonna be. I'm gonna go against the grain here. This is gonna be a very exciting, fast-paced game.
Well, you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Frederic, it not only predicts a win, but also an exciting, fast pace. Frederic, when you're positive, we lose. Okay, I just want you to know this. Okay,
your positivity is not good for business.
I want to see the statistics. I don't believe it. I'm realistic. I'm neither positive nor negative. I'm realistic. I think if you look at the Roma squad, they lack something, and I think Gasperini knows that, and I think Gasperini is also aware of the fact that if you want to in Torino stand a chance against Juventus, even though they're heavily flawed, you need to grab them by the back of the neck. And Spalletti's going to be the same, because Spalletti knows that this game itself, apart from the 3 points, are mentally of such an importance that they have to give it their all. And I think he'll focus this week's training on that aggressiveness, that mentality, that will to fight, will to survive, and whatever. So I think if we look at that, I think that makes for a very interesting game. And I don't think neither of the coaches is going to be happy with a draw. So
interesting. Somebody mentioned the red card for Mancini, which I am totally fine with.
I mean, it's always a coin flip. You never know with that dude.
Tell me a more dislikable guy than him. Tell me.
He's had a great season in his I don't like him, but he's had a very nice season.
Man, such a
there's a lot more unlikable people than Mancini. Let's be real. Well, okay. As for some reason the lights dim all around me and I start to be shadowed in darkness.
We just see a beard moving.
We're gonna wrap this one up, ladies and gentlemen. A couple things, please. If you haven't subscribed, please do that. It means a ton for us content creators. Several people have mentioned either transfer rumors in the chat, as well. You guys haven't discussed, Cambiaso, or you didn't discuss the potential takeover. Well, Frederic and I this week will be recording some content for you, some live, some offline. We will be doing a scoop guaranteed this week that should give you sort of a heads up as we look towards January, what things are going on within Juventus in terms of the strategy, as well as some players incoming, outgoing. And we will be continuing our new series called It's Black and White, where Frederic and I debate issues about Juventus. We had our debut episode a few days ago, really well received, a lot of good comments. We're going to follow it up with 2, one of them surrounding whether Cambiaso has a future at this club and whether John Elkann should sell. So stay tuned for both of those. We will be addressing those very hot topics right now in that format. And we always encourage you, whether it be on this video or on those sort of specific segment style videos, please hit us up on Turin Johnson Instagram or comment to those videos with your thoughts, your feedback, your suggestions, and or to continue those discussion with your own opinions. We read those and we love it. So please continue to do that. Appreciate all of you who joined us in chat here today. Kevin, Frederic, Farhad, my lovely co-host today. Thank you for your time to kind of bring it all for full circle. As always, we keep Ale and Ricky in our hearts forever. Everybody, thank you very much And until next time, as always, Forza Juve.